What do you think of this look? Me and my mustache and my boobs and my sunburnt tan line and my nice bed hair, pillow hair, whatever you call it. I put a lot of effort into this look. It took me hours. Uh, Purpose. Should I talk about purpose? The search for purpose. I don't know. I do feel like this is a perhaps overworn or worn out subject. I might have to move because I'm sitting on a sleeping bag. I just sat on it to make this video, and it's already starting to slide off the bed. So this is my little bed here in the bus, and it slides off because the bus is not level, or the ground it's parked on is not level. I should put it that way. It would be kind of funny if the bus itself weren't level. An unlevel bus has no purpose in life. You can't be a bus and have purpose if you're out of level. Is that how it goes? The reason I never found my purpose is because I'm broken. Is that how it goes? I was broken as a child, and that's the reason I never found my purpose. Is that right? I don't know. What broke me? I don't know. My mother? Do I have to be healed to find my purpose, or will I be healed by finding my purpose? Do I need to do some inner meditations and go back to my childhood and find out where the fracture occurred? What caused it? So I can say, oh, look, it was all an illusion. Your mother didn't hate your guts. She was just a narcissist. She didn't even see you. She looked at you and saw something else. She didn't hate your guts. She didn't despise you. She despised herself. She doesn't even know who you are. Purpose. If I could heal people, I think I would. But I don't think I would do it because I feel like I need to have purpose. I don't think that, like, I would say, oh, I must have purpose, so I'll go heal people. I would do it because I would feel like I want to do it. So, is that what purpose is? Your purpose in life is to do what you want. Is that how it goes? It does make more sense. I mean, imagine if someone said that your purpose in life is to do something, you know, you don't want to do. And I don't mean that you're reluctant or afraid to do it, because there might be some things you want to do, you know, that you're afraid to do or are reluctant to do. Like get dressed up in a dress and take hormones to grow boobs. So that you look like a woman. Do I look like a woman? How about now? I feel so pretty. My love wants to marry me. It is hot and humid. It's already hot and humid in the south, but when you're parked right beside a forest, it's even more humid. But it is less hot. So if I just go outside the bus and go out there underneath the canopy of leaves, the temperature drops about 10 degrees. Ain't that nice? Is that a reason to live? Is that a reason to get out of bed in the morning? To avoid the pain of the heat? The fires of hell are burning me, and my only reason to get out of bed in the morning is just to get my butt off the fires. But it never works. Every morning I wake up, I'm back on the fires again. And even throughout the day, nothing I do ever gets me off the fires. I can go sit out in a place where it's a little bit cooler. But when I sit out there, the mosquitoes get me. The mosquitoes eat my feet, they eat my hands, they eat my face. I'm surprised I still have a face. It can't be my purpose in life, can it? To avoid pain. My purpose in life is to avoid pain. To seek pleasure and avoid pain. That's why I always run away. One of the things that that's on my mind and why this subject of purpose comes up, or for me, is this thing of working for my father. So, because I moved to Salisbury in 2020 when the pandemic started. I mentioned this in just several videos. I know I'm repeating myself, but just in case. I moved here in 2020 to work for my father's pool business. And the trans issue was not resolved between my family and I. It wasn't even resolved with me. Like I still wasn't sure if I was trans or not. But I had gone to Atlanta, and I was there for 4 years for the purpose of bringing some resolution to that, right? And it never, right? Like, it's still an ongoing thing. But when I came back, my family didn't want to talk about it. There was no, you know, there was no, like, are you going to take hormones? Are you, you know, are you going to have a sex change? Are you changing your name? What are you doing? Did you figure anything out? There was none of that. There was no communication on it. When I brought it up, it turned into a fight, and that was the beginning of them not inviting me to things. And then once I did finally start the hormones, that's when they basically stopped talking to me at all. So I do live right beside the family business, so if I pass by, they will wave, and they'll get angry if I don't wave back. But but they don't have a problem with not inviting me to family gatherings. So but this thing of working for him and feeling like I shouldn't run away from this just because of their intolerance and their shitty behavior, right? That I should fight to make it work. But then there is the question of this, like, idea of should, right? And the difference between should and what I actually want. And I think that's kind of the reason for, like, this questioning of, like, purpose being, is your purpose in life to do what you want, right? Or is it to do something that you don't want to do? And, this is like some divine ordinance, right? Like, God is saying, you must do this thing, even, regardless of what you want. It's like when a woman is in a marriage, and after maybe a year or two in the marriage, she realizes that it's not what she wanted. That the relationship is just, she feels like it's a futile relationship. She wants connection, but she can't connect with her husband, and maybe he treats her like shit or just ignores her, and maybe he has other women on the side and he likes them better, but he's married to her because she's easier to get along with or whatever. He knows that she's kind of she believes that she's supposed to be with him, and this is her thing, is that she stays with him because she believes that's what she's supposed to be doing. Right? Like, once you're married, you don't abandon your husband just because he's a jerk from time to time, right? Well, what if he's the jerk so often that the relationship just becomes unenjoyable? Like, you go into like, she wakes up every morning just feeling like, oh God, not this again. Do I have to wake up beside this guy every fucking day? That's what it's like with me and my family. There's this part of me that feels like they are my family, so I can't abandon them, right? But there's also that part of me that, like, am I really stuck with these people? Can I not have a different family? I find it hard to believe that I would have a purpose that was not aligned with what I wanted. That I feel like if I were to see my real purpose, it would be the same as saying the true desire of my heart. That these two mean the same thing. Because that's could be because the way I see it is like God is not a man who's like up there. He's not like CEO of a company who never comes to talk to me, right? But rather, God is at the root of my own being. That, like, if I'm a plant, like if I dig down to my very root of who I am, that's you'll see God down there. And so, uh, if we assume that God has desires, or that when I look at the world and God is seeing the world through my eyes, that God might say, I see something over here that needs to be fixed. And what I would really like to fix that. And this desire bubbles up into my consciousness, and maybe I say, fuck that. Maybe. Or maybe if it's my true desire, maybe I look at it and I say, I want nothing in this life more than to fix that problem. Uh, because people do have, like, what I think of as topical or superficial desire. I shouldn't say superficial, but like surface level desires. Like if your conscious mind is kind of like, think of it as like the surface of the water. I know I'm mixing up my metaphors here, but if consciousness is like an ocean, then my consciousness is maybe a boat on the ocean. All right, and I have some desires that come just from being in the boat. Like, I don't want my boat rocked, Uh, or, I'm thirsty. I need some water. Or, uh, it would be nice to see some fish from time to time. Uh, that sort of thing, which I think of as just kind of like, these maybe are what you might call bodily desires. The desires that just come from, you know, like I'm sweating right now, and it'd be nice to go sit in some AC. Uh, which to me, sex is not far from that. Wanting to get drunk or wanting to make money is not far from that. Especially when you think of the reasons to make money. Like if I think, well, if I had money, I could buy an air conditioner and put it in the bus. Uh, these I think of as like topical. Like these aren't my real desires. These aren't the sorts of things that make life worthwhile, right? Something I think of as more of like a real desire would be something like, let's say if I looked at society and I say, well, there's a problem here, and just out of my love for the universe and humanity, I'm going to devote my life to fixing that, right? Uh, that would be more of like a more lower. When I say lower, I don't mean like more base, but more genuine, more substantial. Like this, it's more the sort of thing that would make life worthwhile. There have been several times when I thought like making art was my purpose, just because that was the one thing that I did that I would do for free. Like I used to, I would there for a while. I would come home from work and spend all day painting. My weekends for several years were me just going like on the weekends. I would go get beer and or like Robitussin and go sit in my apartment and Photoshop and just spend hours painting. And one of the reasons I actually stopped that, I believe, is just because I got to the point where I was like right on the verge of being professional grade. And I think there was a part of me that just said, put the brakes on. I'm not ready to be a professional artist. I don't know if I can do it, that sort of thing. I think that was part of it. Another part of it was just, I had latched on to this idea that I got from researching the Renaissance, that about artists being like priests who are agents of transformation in the world. If a priest is, you might think of as an agent of transformation. The purpose of the priest is to transform society. All right. He's here to, or she is here to bring humanity from the primitive, pain avoiding, pleasure seeking monkeys up to the more angelic, creatures. This was the idea in the Renaissance, was that painters did this. This was not I don't mean that everyone believed this, but a lot of I wouldn't say a lot, but for example, the Medici family, who commissioned a lot of the paintings and took care of a lot of the painters like Michelangelo and Leonardo and Botticelli. They were the Medici family were patrons of them, and they did that because they believed that art was a way to transform society, and that artists, this is why there's so much religious stuff in the art from the Renaissance, why you see things like the Birth of Venus from Botticelli, and paintings of Greek mythology and other symbolic, religiously relevant stuff. Because I don't know which Medici, because there was several generations, right? But I think it was Cosimo who insisted that like Michelangelo be versed in, or Botticelli be versed in like religious traditions, reading religious texts, and they would be invited over to dinner and listen to like Marsilio Ficino speak about Plato or Neoplatonism or Hermeticism and things like that, something like that. And so I kind of latched onto that and was like, that could be me. This could be my purpose. This could be the reason I exist, is to be this painter priest who transforms society. And I think that actually, stamped out a little bit of my desire to paint, because it was almost like I was kind of burdened by my own need to be this thing that in some sense was not real. I don't mean that painters can't be priests. I just mean that it's not something that was like bestowed upon me. It was more something that I took and said, that sounds pretty cool. Who doesn't want to be a painter priest? And then also, of course, there was the question of, the issue with my family. Like, can I fix the issue with my family if I do that? Or should I devote all my time to painting and become this painter priest, or that I don't even know if it's real? Or should I go work for my father 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, because that's how much they work? Meaning that I would pretty much be sacrificing all my other projects, right? Unless I want to spend all day at work and then come home to the bus and, spend the rest of my waking hours working on my projects. Because I feel like that's the only way to fix the issue with my family, or whatever. That the issue with my family is that, or at least with my father, is that that's what he wanted. he wanted me to come home and become invested in his business. And half the reason that he's having an issue with me, one is the trans thing, and the other is that I don't show, I'm not interested in investing myself in his business. And so currently it seems, apparently, I'm not going to read his mind, but apparently from his perspective and my perspective, me coming here was a waste of time. Right? But I don't, it doesn't have to be that way, does it? Right? And I'm not saying that I have to give up painting if I go work for him. I'm just saying that I'm not devoting myself, devoting myself kind of one way or the other, right? Because it is possible for me to work for him without devoting myself, right? Just like it's possible for me to paint without devoting myself to painting, right? Because I was like that before, where there was a time when he hired me just to do drawings for his pool business, like the pool projects, like you draw a house, you draw the property lines, you draw the pool, you put the little measuring lines there showing the distance from the pool to the house, and he would pay me money for that. And if I did 2 or 3 of those in a week, that was good. But that's not what he wants, right? So, is it my purpose in life to give him what he wants? Is it somehow virtuous to sacrifice my own desire to give someone else what they want? Or is my desire to give him what he wants? Is that my desire? Do some people live to give other people what they want? Maybe they have no desires of their own. Their only desire is to give other people what they want. I've heard of women who are like that. A roommate that I had once said that his mother waits on his father hand and foot. I think that's how he put it. She's like his servant. Whether she's that way because she believes that's what she's supposed to do, or that's because she's what she wants to do, or she just feels like that's just the virtuous thing to do. I don't know. I think people have this idea that being selfless is inherently virtuous, right? And that in order to have purpose, that it's not really purpose if it's not also simultaneously selfless, right? It's got to be purpose, and to some degree, I think people kind of see as service, right? You're doing something in service of something greater, in order for it to be purpose. Is that because somewhere in the human psyche, people know that is the greatest good, that the greatest good isn't me getting drunk every day. It's not, me having sex with random women just because I feel horny. And I don't mean that having sex with women is bad, or that it's not also part of my purpose. It could be that having sex with women is part of my purpose, that it is something virtuous because sex is a way to love people, right? It's not just pleasure. Unless you say, it is my pleasure to love people. It is my pleasure to love people because loving people is my purpose. And And what do I even mean it's my purpose? Do I just mean it's a reason to get out of bed in the morning? That it's the thing that makes me feel like my life is justified, like I don't exist, God brought me here for some reason. And I found it. My purpose is to love people. And in some cases that means having sex. In some cases. Did I just find my purpose right here on live TV? That's a lie. This isn't live TV. This is pre-recorded. I lied. Yes, I think a part of me wants to be a preacher. Not a painter priest, but a person who actually gets up on a podium priest. A painter of words. A painter who uses words. A lot of times I don't know what my desire is, what my true desire is in any given moment. And so a lot of times I'll just start talking. And words will come out that I didn't mean to come out. And when I hear them, I think, was that born from my true desire? Like earlier I was talking about having money. Not in this video, but just before I made it, I was talking about this subject. I was having an imaginary conversation on this subject about working for my father, and like one of the benefits is that I would make more money than I currently make, right? But that one of the reasons why I don't go straight for that is because I don't have a reason to make money. That much money anyways. I currently have a job where I'm making just the minimum amount of money that I need to live. I make enough to eat every week. My bicycle broke. I don't have enough money to get my bicycle fixed or to buy a new one. So I'm at that kind of right at the very bottom. So if I worked for him, I would make more than enough to buy a new bicycle, and I would probably make enough to buy a house. But do I want to spend 12 hours a day, 6 days a week working just so I can have a house when I already have a bus? So what I was thinking was, if I did do that, then most of that money I would just put into the stock market because I don't really have a use for it. So this is one of the reasons why I don't feel motivated to work that much for that much money, because I don't have anything to do with the money. I could buy a bicycle, but I don't need to work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week to buy a new bicycle. I could buy an air conditioner for the bus, but again, $300. I don't need to work that much for $300. So, and I started thinking, this is one of the reasons why I don't feel motivated to work, is I don't have a vision for what I would do with, say, if someone just came up to me and gave me $1 million, I wouldn't know what to do with it, right? I shouldn't say that I wouldn't know what to do with it, because if someone gave me that much money, I do have an idea of what I would do with it, right? But most of it would just be invested, right? I might buy a house. I wouldn't buy a mansion. I would buy maybe a if I could find one. Right now, I don't know if I could find one, like a $50,000 house, and then just put the rest of that in the stock market, right? And then basically just wait until some vision came to me that said, that money can go to this, right? All that money that you're saving up, you can start your own church, build your own church. This was the word this is what came to my mind as I was thinking about this. And I started thinking, is that what I want? You know, maybe I never really fantasized about having my own church because I thought maybe some part of my head thinks I can't do it. Or maybe some part of my head said that's not realistic because you don't have the money, you don't have connections to give you the money, you know. Even as a preacher, you don't really have a message, you know. But when that came to my mind, that's when I had that kind of like, that sounds like something that I think there is a part of me that actually wants that. Is that what my purpose is? I don't know that there is such a thing as just like one purpose, you know? Because that is almost in a way like saying that you just have one want. Like you only just want one thing. I don't know that that's true. Maybe there is no such thing as just one purpose. Like my purpose is to go work at the homeless shelter. You know, that's my purpose in life, is to work at the homeless shelter and serve the homeless and the needy. That's my purpose. But I think, you know, what I was getting at earlier is that I think I got off my point there, was that people seem to have this idea that this is inherently virtuous, that if you sacrifice your time for the sake of other people, that this is somehow by default a worthwhile thing to do, or, you know, like this is the right thing to do. You know, maybe worthwhile is not the right word, because I'm sure anybody who receives help says, oh, that was worthwhile, you know, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's your purpose, or that it's the thing. Because like I said, what is purpose? Is it the one thing that you know it when you have it? I mean, because I imagine that if I go to work at a homeless shelter, the things that I've been depressed about in my life, I will continue to be depressed about, and it won't be a resolution of that. It might give me a little more sense of contribution. But just feeling like I'm contributing isn't necessarily I don't want to say it's not necessarily purpose, but it is, because this is one of the things I'm hammering out in my head now as I'm going through this. You know, because maybe I have a purpose just for today. Maybe there's one thing that I can do today that is just my purpose for today. It's not an ongoing thing. Maybe my only purpose today is to work on my Game of Thrones project. I do have to go to work today, but you know, but I've worked in homeless shelters before, because I lived in a homeless shelter, and the homeless shelter that I lived in, I had to work at, or some of them I did, anyways. There was 2 of them I didn't. One of them I was only at for like a day, but one of them I was at for 6 months, and we never had to do anything for that shelter. But there was one where I worked where we had to commit several hours out of the week. And doing that, I never felt like, you know, I've absolved my sins I've redeemed myself. I have justified my existence to God. God can say, now you can rest in peace. Go, live your life wherever you want. You've paid your due. I didn't have that, right? And I don't imagine that was it. Like I don't even think that was, well, that's what it was. Like I served. I was served at a homeless shelter. You know, I'm good, right? I never felt that way. I didn't. When I think about it, I feel like this is what I feel like is that it has something that I will create, whether it is a sermon that I speak, or a movie that I make, which could also be a sermon, or a painting that I paint, or a song that I write, or a poem that I write. Maybe it won't be one, it might be a string of them, like jewels on a necklace, right? That, when I get to be an old human, I look back and I say, I justified my existence through my work. That is the feeling that I have. This is my suspicion. I don't see myself as being a politician, or that is one. Well, I'll take that back. That is one of the things that I wondered about, or thought maybe this could be for me. You know, one of the stories that I'm writing, the main character becomes an ambassador, a person who goes out and speaks to various groups of people. Uh, so that's why he receives the name. He receives a new name, and the name he receives is the native of all lands, because his purpose is to kind of, you know, help bring peace among warring nations. uh, and so that's another one of those instances where, just having written that, when I wrote that, I wasn't thinking about myself, but after I wrote it, I thought, is this like some unconscious fantasy of mine that I had that I didn't even know about? That I just never consciously registered it because maybe some part of my brain says it's not possible, or I'm not capable of that, or I'm too inferior, I'm not smart enough, or whatever. And but once I started, with it in the book, and my imagination is free to go wherever it wants because there are no limitations, that's when all of a sudden this person comes out, and who at first I think is not me, but then after I start going further into it, I think, am I painting a picture of myself here? So this is one way that being creative has helped me. Uh, is that it does help me to, well, actually, I can't say that it helps me to see myself because I don't know actually that what I'm looking at is me. Right? It's coming out of my imagination, but is that the same thing as being me? You know, I wrote a story once about a girl being raped, and I thought, probably somewhere in me is a desire to be raped. That I have this fantasy of being a girl who was raped. Of course, the man who raped her in the story was attractive, so he was the kind of man that you might want to be raped by, if that makes sense. But so maybe that is me. Maybe that was just my imagination. Maybe I just thought that would be, I don't know. So if there's any point to this story, it's that this is I don't want to say it's an important subject, because maybe there is no such thing as purpose, right? But I'm still kind of trying to hammer it out. Is that a good phrase to use? Hammer it out? Iron out the wrinkles? I don't know. Purpose, fate. I am doing the Game of Thrones project, and one of the subjects that I'm stuck on, or that I feel like is one that I don't really want to write about, is the subject of fate. Fate is a big part of Game of Thrones. I feel like it is a little bit more, like in Game of Thrones, it's obvious that fate exists. You might say that fate is a real thing, that people can predict the future because the future already exists. That things happen as they were supposed to happen, and all that sort of thing. Of course, one of the reasons why I'm stuck on that is because one of the aims of my analysis is to tie the story to real life, or not to real life, but to tie it to real life. But because I am going through other religions, so I'm comparing what is in Game of Thrones to what is said in other religions, and but I'm also at the same time trying to kind of conceptualize reality on my own, right? Thinking about these things, because fate is one of the things that I've been thinking about for a long time, and whether people actually have free will, or things you can't help but go where things were determined for you to go. Of course, my natural inclination is to say that people have free will, right? And that's what, as far as I'm concerned, that's what is meant in the Bible when it says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son." That it basically means that people have free will, right? Because first, that verse comes after all the verses about the Word, which existed in the beginning. And if you look at, say, the Holy Trinity in the King James Version of the Bible, the Word is part of the Holy Trinity, right? So usually you think of the Trinity as Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, but in the King James it's Father, the Word, and the Holy Ghost, which means that the Word is the Son in the King James perspective. But just reading the Gospel of John, that makes sense, because it says, "In the beginning was the Word was with God, through the Word all things were created." And then it goes, "And for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son." It never says that the Word was God's Son there, but that is the implied meaning, that for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, which is the Word, which means God loves you, so God sacrificed his will for you. That God has a will for you, but it is you have the ability to say fuck off, right? You have the ability to say, "No, I don't want to listen to you." And Jesus is what you might call the earthly representation of that, right? Jesus is like, the story of Jesus is like an earthly enactment or reenactment of that sacrifice, right? It's like it says, the thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So which means that things that happen on earth are like a depiction of what happens in heaven. So God sacrificed his will in heaven, and so Jesus on earth is reenacting that act by allowing himself to be crucified. Because, assume for a second that Jesus is the Son of God, he could come to earth and make everything perfect. Right? And this was apparently what the Jews were waiting for. They were waiting for some Messiah to come and establish the kingdom of heaven on earth, which basically just means that he would come and make everything perfect. He would get rid of the Roman Empire. He would kick the Roman Empire out of Israel and all that, and make, wash sin from the world. But that's not how the story of the Son of God goes, right? He came to earth and taught a few people a few things and then allowed himself to be crucified. He didn't try to stop them. He didn't say, I'm the Son of God, you can't kill me. He said, you want to kill me, you go right ahead. Right. Because I love you, so I'm going to allow you to say fuck you to me. If you want to say fuck off, God, I don't want to listen to you, you go right ahead. And that is what is meant essentially by free will, right? Is that you have the ability to say, I'm going to do what I want to do. But if you listen to God and do what God tells you to do, then that's what real life is, right? So this is the picture that I have that I'm working with. And, so I have this idea that God has will for me, and that is my purpose, right? That I can't give myself purpose. That I can do what I want, but really nothing, at least so far, at least so far, nothing that I've done has made me feel like I've justified my existence, like I have a reason to get out of bed in the morning. Most mornings when I wake up, I lay in bed for 30 minutes to sometimes to an hour, and just kind of just relax and just kind of, like, what am I doing with my life? What am I going to do today? This is how my life has been. This is why I suspect people like my mother retire, and then after about 2 weeks of being retired, they go back to work because they just don't know what to do with themselves. And I suspect this is one of the issues that I have with my father, and one of the reasons why I don't want to work with him is because his obsession with work comes across as unhealthy, and it comes across as he's obsessed with work because he doesn't know what to do with himself if he doesn't have a job. If you were to somehow force him to not work, he would go nuts from feeling like I don't know what to do with my life. Like I have no reason to live, and I feel like just being a hard worker and making a lot of money is that's the most virtuous thing that I can do. So. That's how it comes across, and that's one of the reasons why I'm like I don't want to be subsumed by your cult. Okay, I've gotten off my point, but hopefully I'm still making a point. But I feel like I'm done. Plus, it's been 45 minutes, 40 something minutes, 54 minutes. Oh my God! And my phone is getting hot. So.